Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
My next guest's book will certainly provoke you. Lord Sarch's book, Orgasm, probes 21 such ideas, chapter by chapter, in a stimulating reading experience, covering subjects from geopolitics and etiquette to the economy and the afterlife. Maurice Sarchi argues that rigorous thinking can create a blissful mental experience.
Well, the title is Orgasm, and I try to investigate the question of whether it's possible for there to be an orgasm of the mind which is equal in bliss to a physical orgasm. That's very interesting. And theoretically, the way that arises, I'll finish. Theoretically, the way that arises is by addressing conflicting ideas and then for there to be a revelation of true wisdom. That's the purpose of the book. And I think you can sum up British politics completely in 2 sentences. You'll understand very well, Michael. Conservatives are efficient but cruel. Labour is caring but incompetent. So you can see there that if you have a situation in which the Conservative Party turns out to be, in people's opinion, inefficient and cruel, well, then you're likely to have a very bad election result, which is exactly what we just did. And why?
So you have quite a lot to say to Kemi Badenoch. I mean, the first thing you'd say to her would be, read my book, please, I suppose.
Well, that's absolutely the first thing. It's a perfect Christmas present for her to give, as I was saying. So that's number one. So after she's done that, well, then her level of wisdom, which I'm sure is already very high, will be greatly increased, and she'll be able to address the complex, provocative, controversial issues aired in this book.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, I'm Tatiana Sanchez alongside Sam Francis, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Very good morning, and great to have your company with us today. We've got an action-packed show, including all of this.
Well, it was a night of history at the Ali Pali Alexandra Palace last night as Luke Littler became the youngest ever world darts champion, beating Michael van Gerwen to the crown. We'll get the latest on the 17-year-old's remarkable feat.
Truly was, and despite the cold snap that is currently hitting the country today, has been dubbed Sunshine Saturday, typically the most popular day for all of us to book our getaways. Travel editor at The Sun, Lisa Minot, will join us to talk about how to save money on those trips.
And Showbiz reporter extraordinaire Stephanie Techi will give us the latest on Neil Young's Glastonbury controversy and Ross Kemp's sensational return to EastEnders.
And we'll also have all of the day's top stories with journalist and broadcaster Candace Holdsworth and former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer on the sofa with us.
Welcome to Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News.
Well, very good morning. It's just coming up to 2 minutes past 10. And did you see last night Luke Littler?
Sensational, as we said, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Making history at 17 years old.
And apparently he's now set for around £50 million in the coming years, I suppose, just because of the prominence that he's reached so early on in his career. And I think
that probably could go up in the near future as well, because he's obviously making the sport more popular.
And you were saying earlier, Michael van Gerwen, the guy that he was competing against, 25 he was when he first became. Yeah. He was already the youngest. Yeah, so, Michael van Gerwen, who was the runner-up last night, was actually a world champion in 2014. He's 39 now. The age of 25, I think. Yes, that's right. Give or take. Don't quote us on that. Absolutely incredible. So don't forget, we want to hear from you throughout the show today. We'd love to hear what you think. So send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay. But before we do anything else, Sophia Wensler, a very keen darter herself, has all the news headlines.
Sam, Tatiana, thank you. Good morning. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. A 31-year-old British man is one of 14 people who were killed when an alleged Islamic State supporter drove a truck into crowds celebrating the New Year in New Orleans. The Met Police have confirmed Edward Pettifer from West London was killed in the attack. The King has been in touch with his family to share his personal condolences. It comes as Mr Pettifer has reportedly been identified as the stepson of Prince William and Prince Harry's former nanny. Meanwhile, the FBI believe the man who drove the truck is believed to have acted alone. Shamsuddin Jabbar's rented truck rammed into crowds in New Orleans, killing 14 and injuring dozens. This comes as the FBI says there is no definitive link between the attack and the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas. Then, hours later in Vegas, a Tesla Cybertruck packed with gasoline canisters and large fireworks exploded in flames outside the Trump International Hotel, with the driver confirmed as active-duty American soldier Matthew Livelsberger. GB News can exclusively reveal that the first boatload of illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. The Border Force vessel picked up the migrants from their small boat early this morning and is currently on its way back to Dover. It comes after nearly 37,000 people made the treacherous journey in small boats last year. Over 23,000 have crossed since Labour came into government last July. In other news, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said the gloves are off and vows to ramp up his campaigning efforts in Kemi Badenoch's constituency of North West Essex. It follows claims from the Conservative leader that Reform's online membership tracker was fake, despite several news outlets reporting they had seen the party's membership data and believe the tracker is accurate. Speaking ahead of his racecourse rally in Kemi Badenoch's constituency, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said the Tory leader had taken her chance.
I gave her an opportunity to apologise for what has now been thoroughly disproven in the media, and she's chosen not to take the opportunity. Although that's not surprising, she's not exactly known for her charm. So what to do? What to do? Well, it's all well and good saying sue her, but you have to prove actual harm. She hasn't harmed us. She's given us tens of thousands more members.
Meanwhile, the former Conservative MP for Dudley North, Marco Longhi, has defected to Reform after accusing the Conservative Party of becoming unrecognisable. It comes as the Reform UK leader has distanced himself from Elon Musk's support for Tommy Robinson. Nigel Farage has said Robinson is not what we need after Elon Musk praised the imprisoned right-wing activist. Mr Musk, the tech billionaire and supporter of Mr Farage, retweeted posts on X describing Robinson as a political prisoner and separately said Britain needs reform now. Now, Sir Keir Starmer is as guilty as anyone over failures to tackle grooming gangs, according to the whistleblower Maggie Oliver, who helped expose the scandal. It comes as pressure mounts on the government to deliver a public inquiry into the gangs that systematically groomed and raped young girls. Tech billionaire Elon Musk has called on the King to step in and dissolve Parliament after Labour rejected a call for a national inquiry. Mr Musk has been widely outspoken on the issue after claiming the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, deserves to be in prison.
The scale of the raping of children by these gangs is so wide and has gone on for so long and was allowed to happen because of various agencies not doing their job properly. It is such a serious matter. So many lives have been destroyed. We must do everything possible to ensure it never happens again. And I therefore think that a wide-reaching public inquiry with all the statutory powers so that it could compel people to give evidence is the very least that the victims deserve.
Former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley speaking there. Now, the UK is braced for heavy snow and icy rain this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas. 2 amber and 2 yellow alerts have been issued by the Met Office across most of the country for both Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures fell as low as -8.1 degrees on Friday, and the bitter conditions created by an Arctic wind are expected to continue into next week. Forecasters say power cuts are likely and that vehicles could become stranded on roads as wintry conditions continue. Trains and flights could also be delayed or cancelled. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Tatiana and Sam.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Sophia, thank you very much. I don't think I need to be told just how cold it is outside today. It is freezing, and heavy snow is expected also to hit parts of England and Wales this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas.
I was going to say some. I think it's pretty much almost every area. The more severe warnings cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales, and they're in place from tonight right through until tomorrow evening as well.
Temperatures fell as low as -8 degrees early yesterday, and those bitter conditions created by an Arctic wind are expected to continue into next week.
Well, there are warnings that rural communities could be cut off, with up to 30 centimetres of snow expected in some areas.
Disruptions already being felt this morning as race meetings at Sandown and Wincanton have been abandoned due to frozen tracks. Well, we're joined now by GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie. Doogie, good morning. How is it up there where you are?
Well, good morning and welcome to the beautiful, picturesque village of Brasheen, just outside Ballymena. Now, this morning we were in Ballymena, which is only about 3 miles away from here, and the footpaths were covered in snow. There's no snow on the footpaths here, but as you can see from the rooftop of this beautiful old thatched pub, well, it's covered in snow. And we tried to move out round towards Slamish, just out round the corner, and very little snow, but we couldn't actually get up the mountain because the road was impacted with black ice all over the place. I mean, and this is going to be the problem, because at midnight tonight we're expecting more snow in Northern Ireland, and of course the ground is already now well frozen. Some of the snow that's lying in Ballymena is basically impacted ice, and it's creating problems for drivers, and especially the fog that is coming with it. I mean, normally you'd be able to see right down this street behind me, but there's that much fog in the round at this minute in time, and they're very, very dangerous for driving, of course, because it is banks of fog that you actually drive into, and within seconds your visibility is cut by 3 times. It is quite scary driving that way in the round at the moment, and I would appeal to any drivers, please be very, very careful doing that. None of us are saying that we're stupid in round snow. We've all seen it before. We all know what it is, and we know what to do. I mean, last night I was out with my mother making sure she had logs and so forth on the fire, groceries in, and really that's what we should all be doing this weekend. Making sure that elderly neighbours are looked after, making sure they have everything they need, making sure that outside taps are wrapped and so they don't freeze, etc. But other than that, it will be from midnight tonight in Northern Ireland. It will be blizzards coming in, and if it falls on top of what's already here, we could be in for a few days of disruption. But so far, things are moving easily. Just be careful on the roads with fog and ice.
Doogie, from memory, how does this compare to previous years? This time of year, straight off the back of Christmas and New Year, is it as cold as we're sort of truly saying, or are we all being a bit overdramatic?
Well, it is cold at this time of year. I mean, I come from an agricultural background. I know this time of year. I mean, I remember walking to school on the tops of hedges because of drifted snow. I mean, it's not unusual to have snow from this time in to March. And in fact, what's the old saying about March? In like a lion, out like a lamb. In like a lamb, out like a lion. So really, any time from now to March, this is normal. And really, we need cold weather to do away with flus and viruses that are coming around the place, and to also open the ground for the farmers a little bit. So yeah, it's not unusual. We know how to deal with it, but just be careful when driving, especially the new drivers, and make sure we look after the elderly that's about.
Doogie, thank you very much, and try to stay warm as best as you can. I'm a little bit jealous of that snow on those roofs behind you, but Doogie, thank you very much. Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth and former Labour advisor Matthew Lizer to talk through those top stories of today.
Morning.
Good morning.
Too cold.
Not too cold.
We were pre-warned by the breakfast guests
to put a jacket on.
Put jackets
yeah,
on
absolutely.
and breaks, but actually it's not as bad as I was expecting.
I was
thankfully.
tempted to come in with a jacket and wear it on air today,
absolutely.
just to make a point. But I woke up this morning, I didn't feel quite as cold as I'd expected to feel with all the warnings about staying indoors.
I think it might be a bit of the calm before the storm. Might be some more coming in this evening.
Yeah, south, because obviously we are in London.
Yes.
I love it though. I'm one of those weird people. I love the cold. I got married in winter. I had a winter wedding.
Really?
No one could believe it.
What was the weather like on the day? Did you get snow or not?
So I was kind of hoping for snow. I was sort of wishing for snow just for the photographs. Yeah. Although everyone warned me, don't wish for that because no one will be able to come to the wedding. So it was okay. It was actually quite mild. But for me, like the photographs are beautiful. You know, like twinkling fairy lights and all that.
You
kind
didn't
of
go
thing.
for a snow machine?
No. Well, we should have. We should have.
My parents got married on New Year's Eve. My mother wore black. They got stuck behind a hearse on the way to the ceremony, and they were the last ceremony before the registrar was knocked down. So it didn't bode well. They weren't married for that long.
Oh no!
So you didn't ask any more questions.
Right. Should we go through some of the top stories of today?
Yes.
I think we should start with reform.
Yes. So we saw a little bit in the news there, didn't we? We saw Nigel putting his tanks very firmly and quite literally on Kemi Badenoch Tory leader's lawn. So Reform are having their East of England conference in Chelmsford Racecourse, which just happens to be in Kemi's Essex parliamentary constituency. So this morning he's going to gather lots of his new members and have a big photo shoot and underline the fact that Kemi's got herself into hot water by claiming that the count of the number of Reform members was inaccurate, when it seems some independent and not necessarily particularly pro-Reform media sources have had a look at it and nobody else seems to be able to find anything wrong with it. So, yeah.
Candice, if you were in Kemi's shoes, what would you be doing now? Do you think it is time for her to come out and apologise for what she said, or do you expect she won't be backtracking at all?
She's put herself in a very difficult position because staying quiet is damaging her, saying something is damaging her. I think unless she had very solid evidence that this was fake, that these numbers were fake, she shouldn't have said anything at all, because it's so true that these independent verifications have only made her look like she just doesn't know what she's talking about. And people I speak to, even Conservative supporters, have sort of started looking at her as like a little bit less credible now.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's started to create questions, hasn't it, about her performance?
Yes.
And I think that's, she needs to be very careful. Basically, if I was Kemi, I would be trying to distract attention with some initiative or a big speech or something this week. But then her Christmas message, New Year message, was only 24 seconds.
But why would she have even engaged in the Reform debate? It would have been better for her in the first place just to leave it alone.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you're going... look, the golden rule is if you're going to do something like this, you have to get your ducks in a row. You have to make sure that your facts are right. And it seems that, that basically she was just talking through a hat, to put it politely.
Yes, shooting from the hip.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to be so strategic, and this is very early on quite the error.
Yeah, because people remember your early errors in a way that, you can get away with things a bit later on when people have established yourself in people's minds.
She needs to be treading slightly more carefully, considering she's so new in the job.
Yes.
Now, it seems as though momentum is with Reform at the moment, right? But we've got some... We've got a GB News exclusive this morning that reveals that the first boatload of illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. So, like I said, in the polls, it does appear that popularity for Reform is growing. But is it? On the front page of the Eye today, apparently they're saying Starmer will lose voters to Reform unless he addresses migration concerns. Do we have faith as a nation behind Reform that they will actually change something? Because the last two governments arguably haven't managed to do anything.
Well, I think that's the secret to Reform's current success, is that people's frustration. I mean, I think this is Kemi's problem, isn't it? If people are really... If the boat crossings and immigration is their number one concern, they're looking at Labour and saying nothing's happened yet. Labour would say it's doing stuff behind the scenes to tackle the gangs, but obviously with steel steam boats coming aplenty. And then obviously the Tories had 14 years to do it, so therefore people are turning to Reform. Now, whether Reform have really got the answers...
That's the question.
It's the big question.
Yeah.
Well, I think, OK, so, Kemi Badenoch's made this one error, but I think the one thing she has said right, which I do agree with, is she says we need to look at things on a systemic level, because what can happen is if the system is flawed, it doesn't matter which political party is in power, they end up making the same choices. So some would, for instance, would point to the ECHR, that it is just a blocker on being able to sort out this migrant crisis. Others would disagree. Some would say that we need to get something like the Rwanda deal through, where we have third-party processing, and if you have a court, a foreign court, which is blocking being able to do that, no party will be able to solve this problem. The demand side of the issue, putting a deterrent in place, an effective deterrent. So I think that's what, for any party to be effective, I think you have to look at these systemic issues which are making this a very difficult problem to solve.
I think the pressure's going to grow on her to decide what she's going to do about the ECHR, because Robert Jenrick, who she beat in the leadership, was very clear that Britain should come out. She was like, oh, only if needs be. I'm still not sure, kind of holding the position of the previous government. I think pressure's going to grow on her.
To make a stand, isn't
Absolutely.
she?
She's going to have to say something.
Which direction she's going to take.
Yes.
Let's turn, I think, to the front page of the Daily Telegraph this morning, sticking with the theme of migrants and asylum seekers. Candice, inside the priority of NHS services for migrants, we're reading that asylum seekers are getting preferential treatment and seem to be seeing doctors far quicker than the rest of us.
Yeah, so this is a story in the Telegraph. It's about a sort of... it's a measure taken by some NHS services to reach what they would call the hard to reach. So people who are migrants, asylum seekers, homeless people, people with mental health and addiction issues who don't usually present at NHS clinics or A&E, even when they've got health issues. So they've said, like, we'll prioritise you, we'll fast-track you. It may be a well-meaning thing, but it will not go down with the public during times of record waiting lists and A&E wait times, basically. I mean, people are just not going to look at this kindly. The same thing happened in New York, where they were giving migrants prepaid debit cards. People found out about it in a city that was suffering huge cost of living crisis, caused a massive political controversy. And this is the issue that we're facing right now. There's so much anger about the costs of the asylum system, and it's when people are really, really struggling to access health services themselves that they're just going to have low tolerance for it.
I think I read in that article that even failed asylum seekers, not just those that are successful or going through the system, but those that have already been declined,
undocumented,
are also getting that access early ahead of the rest of the population, which is
And it's not right,
confusing.
of course, when official figures show that at least 1 in 4 people had to wait more than 4 hours to be seen in A&E.
I think the anger, as Candice says, the anger is just going to be real. I mean, I think it comes from a well-meaning place in the sense that it seems to have grown out of homelessness services. I think we probably all think that, you know, having services for homeless people is appropriate. We don't, you know, TB, for example, is big in the homeless population, which then spreads. So, you know, we've all got interest in that. But then when it seems to be targeting failed asylum seekers, I think the NHS has gone too far. I mean, there's 7 million people on NHS waiting lists, 7.5 million people.
Wow.
People are not going to be happy.
I think we've got just a few more seconds to touch on. I've got to touch on this one. It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Apple being forced to pay round about £77 million, $95 million, to settle a court case alleging some of its devices have, well, been listening into us, which I think is just...
Which I believe.
Every Siri user in the States is likely to get $20 at the end of it, which is not going to set the world alight, but it makes a point that, I mean, so Apple denies any wrongdoing, and it is settling out of court, as it were, as we'd say here, without a full trial to kind of close the issue down. But clearly, if it happened there, maybe we should all be signing up.
Can you see signs of it, though? Do you see signs of this, that you talk about something?
We were saying that this morning. I mean, I was speaking to
listening into
friends
our
about a washing machine the other day, and then up appears...
You know how to have fun, Sam.
Holidays, money. Exactly. Just tell it anything and hope it's going to give you what you want.
And the next thing you know, you're getting adverts on your phone. If you come across this,
I mean, I think it's just scary, isn't it? And then, of course, when it just happens accidentally, you think conspiracy, don't you? And it's just, you know, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being too innocent.
But we have no idea. I mean, I was listening to a tech expert who was saying, you know, when you sign permissions for these technologies, you actually have no idea what you're signing away. You're signing away huge amounts of privacy.
I think you can. I know a couple of companies, Google, Amazon, I think you can log into your account and see just what recordings or voice they have of you, which is probably quite scary.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, Candice, Matthew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll touch base with you later for more on the papers.
Up next, 17-year-old Luke Littler made history last night as the youngest ever world darts champion. We'll get the latest on his incredible victory next, and this is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's about Generation Z spending 6 hours a day online. Generation Z, which age group is that?
16 to 24.
OK, great.
Now, this could explain why there's 1 million young people aged between 16 and 24.
100%.
Not working.
Work.
Yeah.
And I did a TV show and we're talking about it, and the lefty person I was on with was making excuses for the fact that we've got 9 million people unemployed. And this woman, this mom, rang in and she was hilarious. And I thought she was going to have a go at me. She said, Carol Malone. I thought, here we go, another one. And she goes, you are absolutely right. She said, I've just thrown my son out of the house, who's 24. She said, my husband and I, she said, we worked all our lives, 2 jobs, to get him to college, to get him to a private school. Yeah. She said, he hasn't worked a day.
No.
And his attitude was, why should I? And you think... And she said he spends all day online.
On his phone.
That's all he's
Because
doing.
we would have gone to get a job because we were bored. And the trouble is, Jonathan, the younger generation are never, ever bored because the algorithms keep them stimulating.
Well, the dopamine hits keep coming. I think it's actually a problem for all of us. Yeah. You know, now for anyone, if you just have a moment to yourself, a lot of people of all ages, what do we reach for? We reach for our phones, particularly for those. Obviously, if we're with a friend, we'll talk to them.
Your age group, you're not talking about...
I know that I've spoken to a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s who also will just, you know, if they have a free month on the tube or whatever, they'll just look at their phone and read. And it's actually terrifying because on the iPhone every Monday it tells you how much time you spent on your phone the previous week, and it's
much for you?
On average per day?
Fair few hours. I mean, a lot of that will be work.
What's the ballpark? Oh, more than 5?
Occasionally 5, yeah.
Well, better things to do. Spending 6 hours a day.
Do you never read a book?
Well, that'll be at night time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Don't forget to keep sending me and Sam questions about the topics in the news this week, and we will chat them through with our panel and guests.
Well, you've already been doing that, and let's take a look at some of the comments that have been flying in. I mean, we've got to give ourselves a bit of credit this morning. Stephen says, "Go on, go on."
Yay, Sam and Tatiana.
A bit more.
Yay! Made me cough now.
There we go. Thanks,
Yay.
Stephen, for your congratulations.
Thanks.
It's good to have you watching. Osman said, is there a petition to the government to discuss in Parliament the grooming gang's cover-up and demand an inquiry? That's a very, very good question. Osman has certainly been leading the news for most of the week so far.
Yes, it has. Richard says the Human Rights Act, the ECHR and the Refugee Convention must all be scrapped.
Definitely not alone there, Richard, in those thoughts, I think. We'll wait and see what Kemi Badenoch has to say about the course of action for the Tories. Yes. And Adrian, you're saying that you were one of those, probably millions, I'm sure, watching the dance last night. Very, very exciting. Well, speaking of the dance last night at Alexandra Palace, the 17-year-old Luke Littler made history by becoming the youngest ever world dance champion.
Littler beat the 3-time world champion Michael van Gerwen to finally take home the crown after losing out to the title last year.
Well, here's what the new world champion, just 17 years old, had to say after his remarkable victory.
Since the winning double, I just can't believe it. Walking around backstage with it, I can tell myself I've won it and it's mine, but it's not sunk in.
And you've created so much history over the last year, but how does it feel to be the youngest ever world champion?
Yeah, obviously I knew coming into it for myself, I knew it would be my first, but to become the youngest if it didn't happen, I still had plenty of years, but I'm glad to do it tonight.
It's a good point.
With us now is sports broadcaster Chris Scudder. Chris, good morning to you. What a fantastic evening of sport. And we were just talking now, weren't we, and saying how humble he is. Do you think that will last?
Maybe not, but he's 17. I mean, you won £500,000 last night. You won £1 million last year. I think that's a northern thing, you know. It's that humble thing. I mean, he's from Warrington, Runcorn before that. I mean, he's just. I mean, I guess he's in a stage of his life now where it's just all a big dream, really.
Yeah.
And darts players, it's practice, practice, practice. And I think, you know, when you... Nerves, it's a massive part of it. I mean, if you get a twitch, you're not going to win. But, I mean, they do it so often that it's just automatic.
But so if he's practising, as you say, practice, 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 that's how you get to that level of success. But he's practising, I imagine, in isolation most of the time. So surely the nerves, the minute you walk onto the stage, in that kind of environment...
Yeah, you've got to remember, he's been playing since he was 5, you know, and playing all through the youth. He's been sponsored when he was 12, you know, so he's been around a lot of tournaments. So you do learn, to win by losing first. That's all part of the process.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's an amazing thing. If me or you try to get up there, we just go to pieces, you know. But it's something which, even though he's 17, he's been playing for.
But that's what, exactly that, and that's what makes the best, because they can perform just as well, not in front of people and in front of huge crowds. Why do you think it is that Luke Littler has stolen the hearts of the nation?
Because he's so normal, isn't he? He's a lovely lad, really is a lovely lad. I mean, he was asked last night in the post in the media conference, are you the best in the world? He said, I would never say that. You know, the stats might back that up, but I would never say that. And, you know, like I say, it's an awesome thing, I think. I just think he's terribly, you know, just a normal lad. Every time, you saw the stressful moments last night. Look at his mum and dad, you know, and just go... You know, he looked... You could have felt for him, but so much of it, though, is that repetition where he would just go back into the groove and just hit... I mean, I don't know if you saw the final, but at the end, he had 132 to check out, which is easy, not. Bullseye, and then missed the double 16, but the next visit he just got it straight away. And the way he was hitting the doubles, the difference last night, Michael van Gerwen, incredible champion as well. Quite similar to Littler, and you know, he's just a machine, really. But he was missing the doubles, and Littler didn't. Double top, which is, you know, we all know that those terms, don't we? Darts. It's a game where it's a pub game, which has become. Everyone knows what double top is, and you know, the treble 20 and stuff like that. He just kept hitting the doubles, the double top and the double 10. Littler got them all the time, and that's why he won it.
It's the consistency that counts.
Consistency. If you miss the doubles, you're going to lose. You know.
But for him to do that as well against a world champion who made history himself at the age of 25 by becoming
he was the youngest before at 24. Yeah. So
for him to hold his nerve at 17.
Yeah, but as I say, I mean, he's been doing it a long time. People don't realise that, but he's been doing it at youth tournaments, and you just become a, you know... But
is the age across most sports coming down? It seems, as you said, you know, Michael van Gerwen at 24, now Luke Littler at 17, rather. Are other sports following suit, that people are just getting better at a much younger age?
I don't know. Yeah, certain Olympic sports, that's always been the case. And remember, swimming used to get sort of 13-year-olds doing gymnastics. You know, Nadia Comaneci and people like that. It's the environment. You look at the Russian gymnasts. They would be doing it. The divers from China doing it from the age of 3.
Synchronised swimming, I think, is exactly the same as well.
So if you do start young and you get used to that environment, the pressure environment. I noticed in the Olympics that the Chinese divers never made a mistake, you know, and when something slightly went wrong, it was like, you know, wow, how's that happened? You know, they just go into this kind of trance and do it. So, yeah, practice makes perfect, without a doubt.
I wanted to ask you what you think Luke Littler's win will do for the sport moving forwards. For example, it's being held at the Ali Pali at the moment. How long will that last? I mean, they're going to have to hold it at bigger venues, aren't they?
I don't know. I think that's part of the fan thing is part of the attraction. Isn't it? I learned all the songs over the last few weeks. You know, the boring tables. What's all that about? What?
It's going to give us a taste of the songs.
Boring tables was one of them, and there was a song about the Touré brothers, footballers, Kolo and Yaya. You probably heard them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure whether it'll outgrow that. I mean, I think, you know, it'll become more international, I'm sure. I mean, I noticed this tournament, you know, a lot of Germans there, obviously a lot of Dutch with Van Gerwen and people like that. But it's been mastered by TV. It's a real TV event now. It really translates well to television because
which is strange because you think
you're in the face. You're in the face, and you're on the board. If you're there, you can't see that much, but everyone's staring at the TVs. You know, and that, you know, the cheering and the fun of it is, you know, it's all part of the pressure cooker. But it's good telly, I think.
Quick question on football this weekend. What to expect? We'll pull away from the darts for a moment.
Well, all the big teams are playing. So Liverpool play Man United tomorrow. I mean, that's a great one because Liverpool are going for the title. Man United in total for what? Liverpool?
No, unfortunately not.
Partial, Tatiana.
Listen, they'll get it right eventually, but I mean, you know, it's a real mess off the field. Arsenal playing today, and I think most of the neutrals would like them to beat Brighton today because if they don't, Liverpool are running away with it. We don't want you want a good title race, don't you? So Chelsea falling apart a bit with a couple of defeats lately. They're playing Palace today. Man City playing West Ham, who are struggling too. But United, bit of a mess, really. I'll give a mention to my team, Birmingham. Birmingham City, up the Blues. Come on, keep
running. Oh dear, plenty to look forward to, Chris. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, how about starting your new year with an incredible £50,000? Not quite the 50 million that Luke Little has bagged, but it's cash from us to you, and it could all be yours in our great British giveaway. Here's all the details you need.
Good luck.
Very best of luck.
And also coming up today is Sunshine Saturday, believe it or not. Travel editor at The Sun, Lisa Minnow, will join us here to share the best deals and what not to spend your money on when planning your getaways. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, there is going to be some heavy and perhaps disruptive snow affecting many parts of particularly England and Wales as we go through later today and overnight. But before that, we do have some icy patches, even some frost and some freezing fog patches around first thing this morning. A few wintry showers as well affecting some coastal parts, mainly towards Scotland, but some a little bit further south as well. Otherwise, some decent dry and sunny weather to be had, but things turning cloudier, wetter and windier towards the southwest. It is again going to be a cold day, despite the fact that there'll be some sunshine. And like I said, those winds starting to pick up ahead of some sleet and snow that could also be pushing in from the southwest as we go through the afternoon. Taking a closer look through this evening and across parts of Scotland, some clear skies to start the night and just still a few showers skirting those northern and western coastal parts in particular. These could be falling as a mixture of rain, sleet and snow. A few showers further south affecting coastal parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps feeding down the Irish Sea as well. Otherwise, many places across central and eastern England staying dry, but then we have this heavy rain and some significant snow pushing its way across parts of England and Wales. Now, this is likely to cause some significant disruption, and it brings the risk of some freezing rain, so some treacherous driving conditions as we go overnight into tomorrow. Snow depths across some parts of northern England could build up to around 40 centimetres over the higher ground. It is going to be a cold night, as you would expect, particularly across the north where we get some clearer skies, temperatures falling several degrees below freezing. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow and we continue with the snow risk across the northern parts of England, Wales and perhaps into parts of southern Scotland as well, also eastern Scotland seeing some snow. Further south, we're going to see the snow clearing and there will be some rain falling in behind, but it's also turning markedly milder here. Temperatures getting into low teens. Meanwhile, further north, it is going to be bitterly cold. Bye-bye.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you, 10:38. Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Please do keep sending your thoughts and questions in to me and Tatiana. We'll try and get some of them to our panel in just a few moments.
Some of you have already been emailing us. Margaret says, will Luke Littler be the saviour of our pubs? Very good point, actually.
I think it's a really good point, because if you can get people back in the pubs playing darts, it makes sense. But I think, potentially, if darts becomes a really, really big thing, it's going to expand even beyond the pubs. There'll be darts clubs up and down the country.
Darts clubs.
Surprised.
Bigger venues, perhaps, like a fan zone.
Yeah. Grumpy Grandad's saying, again, Luke Littler, every now and then in every sport you get a really special talent, and Luke is one of them. I think we all agree with that one.
Definitely. And Ian says, when will the cries of a gong for Luke Littler start?
When will the cries of a gong? Oh, an award. Is that what we mean by gong? An honour.
Oh, like an honour,
I was thinking, when will the cries of a gong? You know, I thinking,
or the town crier came to my mind.
OK, Ian.
Yeah, very good point.
We'll assume you mean an award.
Yes, of course, he does deserve it, doesn't he?
He certainly does.
Just 17 years old.
Bagging a serious amount of money.
Yeah. Right, moving on. Despite the ice and snow warnings in place, today is the travel industry's much anticipated date for holiday bookings, which has been dubbed Sunshine Saturday.
Sunshine Saturday. And there are, of course, lots of deals out there to popular sunny destinations, including flights to countries like France, Spain and Italy, all starting, apparently, as low as £50 for a return flight.
Wow, but how can you get the best deal, and what extras and add-ons can you afford to avoid when booking your holidays?
Well, joining us now to share more on all of that and give you some top tips is travel editor at The Sun, Lisa Minot. Lisa, good morning to you. Sadly, we're not in the sun. We're stuck in wet, windy and very cold Britain. But what sort of trends are we seeing at the moment? Where are people managing to bag their bargains?
Well, I mean, I really think this is the year where we actually have more choice than ever before. There's sales on with all of the main tour operators, and they're begging us to actually get booking now. And the weather outside the window, as you say, is pretty awful, so we need something to look forward to. We want some sunshine, don't we? In terms of destinations, I think you'll find that obviously the Canaries, Spain, mainland Spain's beaches, that's always going to be popular, and I think will continue to be into this year. But what we are seeing is a different trend, actually, in that the traditional holiday hotspots of, say, Portugal and France, they were overtaken last year by Greece and Turkey. They're really popular at the moment, lots of flights to those destinations, and that's keeping the prices really keen. And then actually we're also looking east. So the Eastern European countries of Bulgaria, Albania and Montenegro, the neighbour to Croatia, again looking to be really popular this year because they're offering really good value. We still have a cost of living crisis, and people are trying to make sure every single penny of their holiday pound is spent properly.
What sort of temperatures, Lisa? You mentioned the sort of east of Europe. At this time of year, because I'm unfamiliar with that side of Europe, I would tend to go Spain, Portugal, those kind of destinations. I think you're the same.
Yeah.
What temperatures can you expect?
At this time of year, it would be the same as temperatures you would see in places like Italy. It's not going to be warm at this time of year. We're not talking about winter sun. This is for summer sun. And actually, that's the other trend we are seeing as well, is coolcations. People not wanting to go to the really sizzling hot Mediterranean countries in peak season and choosing to perhaps go to places a little further north. So the temperatures are going to be a little more pleasant at that time of year. So say the north of Spain is actually really one of the ones that's been tipped for this year. The area around Bilbao and into Galicia, which is a beautiful part of Spain, really mountainous, lots of rugged countryside and rugged coves. And again, another really good top tip if you're looking to have perhaps not as really burning hot peak season summer.
And what is it about today, Lisa? Why is it that today people are booking so many holidays?
Well, I think you've got all of those adverts on telly, haven't you? You've got all of the sales that are on with our main big tour operators. They've been making a big deal about it. And of course, I think it's just a fact that we want something to look forward to. We've gone through the festive season. It's all a bit miserable and depressing. We're coming back into work and everything. So people want something to look forward to. And most of the companies at the moment are offering very low deposits. So for a small amount of money, you can actually reserve the holiday you want now and then start to look towards paying for it over a period of time up into the summer.
Are there any... one of the questions I've always been intrigued by is whether there are any particular trends for specific demographics. Does, say, Gen Z, Gen X go to a certain destination or hotspot, whereas those that are slightly older or maybe married or single or with families, are there any trends that we're picking up?
I think one of the big trends actually at the moment is multi-generational holidays. So actually that's your Gen Zs going away with their boomer grandparents, because multi-gens are actually a good way of saving money if you decide to all put money into a pot together. So multi-gen holidays are definitely big. And then also I think you've got to bear in mind the fact that I think we've got a much more sophisticated younger generation now. They've been going on a holiday with their parents since they were small. They're not going on that sort of big 1830 holiday that some of us used to do in days gone by. They are a sophisticated travel audience, and that's why I think the likes of Albania is going to be really popular this year, because it offers a really cool climate, cool as in sort of trendy cool, lots of festivals going on there, but it's really good value, so that Gen Z can afford it as well. So good music festivals, really cheap accommodation and food, and I think that's where the sort of more sophisticated younger travel is going to be going.
And Lisa, just quickly before we go, where would you recommend that people avoid?
Well, in terms of avoiding, there isn't any one place I would say avoid. Obviously, we have seen quite a few people having protests in places like Mallorca and Lanzarote, and that will have put off certain people. The other thing I would say to definitely avoid doing, and that's when you're booking your holiday, remembering to book all of your extras, your holiday extras at the same time, because there's huge savings to be made. There's a new report out from Holiday Extras that found that with us taking about 3 holidays a year, we could be saving £600 just on airport parking.
Wow.
If we're in advance compared to actually just turning up at the gate, which incredibly people still do. They just turn up at the airport and park, and it's incredibly expensive if you do it like that. So booking all of those extras in advance, as well as when you've actually booked your holiday, instantly booking your travel insurance is really important.
Lisa, thanks so much. That's all we've got time for now, but fascinating top tips there. And, well, I was going to say where to avoid, probably right now, the UK.
Yes,
it's so
very
cold.
cold. I think I'm going to start booking a holiday from today.
Have a look at that. And if you are planning to set off and go and find some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking across southern parts of Europe for some winter sun on Sunday, and whilst in the west it's going to be quite wet but also relatively warm. A different story further east. Temperatures here around or a touch below average for the time of year, and a mixture of sunny breaks with a few outbreaks of rain. The wettest weather will be pushing across parts of Portugal and into western Spain, but here, like I said, temperatures above average for the time of year. Madeira, for example, getting into the low 20s Celsius. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Up next, Showbiz juggernaut Stephanie Tecci will join us to share the latest on Neil Young's Glastonbury controversy and Ross Kemp's sensational return to EastEnders.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
You an EastEnders fan?
I love EastEnders back in the day, yeah.
This is Saturday Morning Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
It seems that the younger generation's interest in literature is waning. Academics argue that educational policies have failed to encourage reading for pleasure, contributing to declining numbers of English literature students and a shift towards young adult books rather than classic novels. According to 2023 figures from the National Literacy Trust, the number of 8 to 18-year-olds who say they enjoy reading has sunk to its lowest level for almost 20 years, with a quarter fewer reading each day over that same time period. To share more with us about this topic, I'm joined now by the journalist Charlotte Lytton. Charlotte, welcome back. Lovely to talk to you again. Tell us your perspective on this issue. What is happening?
Well, speaking to academics, we can't deny, it seems, that there is a big problem here, and it starts right at school. As you read there, young children simply don't enjoy reading for pleasure as they did before. We can't deny that is also a massive part because of smartphones, because kids now are faced with all of these things vying for their attention. They just don't have to sit down and entertain themselves with a long book and nothing else as they did before. As we see from those figures with people going to study humanities at university, the decline is just going all the way because people simply are not interested in reading for pleasure as they were.
Do you get any feeling that education policy or that teachers are taking steps to counter this?
Well, there is a review of the curriculum going ahead right now, but school is a huge part of it. One of the things that has come up in this conversation is whether teachers now are dealing with crowd control, which means they can't simply encourage reading for pleasure because they're simply trying to get a hold of the students they have.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Sam and Tatiana with you for another hour and 10 minutes. But first, we're going to dive straight into all the showbiz news. Showbiz reporter and broadcaster Stephanie Tecci is with us for all the big stories of the week.
Good morning.
Morning. Shall we start with
Neil Young?
Interesting one.
You never rarely hear of artists backtracking and saying they no longer want to perform in Glastonbury, and that's what the legend Neil Young did on Thursday. He said that Glastonbury has become too corporate now, that it's under corporate control now that it's partnered with the BBC. Glastonbury's had a long partnership with the BBC since '97, so fans were confused about what's happened here. He didn't give any specific details, but it was quite embarrassing because 24 hours later he said that he was provided with the wrong information and now he's going to be back performing. So it's kind of, he hasn't really expressed what's gone wrong here, but you know, with him saying it's a under corporate control, Neil Young sold his whole catalogue to a corporate company just only 3 years ago. So I think it's kind of a bit hypocritical of him to say that.
That was truly the original reason that it's under corporate control. That hasn't changed in 24 hours. It is still under corporate.
It is.
He'd been given more freedom and he wasn't perhaps given the freedom to do what he wanted to do exactly. We don't know.
Well, that's what he was saying. He did say in his original statement that the BBC were trying to force him to do things that was out of his interest. He has had a rocky relationship with them back in 2009 when he performed at Glastonbury. He wasn't going to let them showcase anything, air any of his performances, and then he changed his mind. So I think he's definitely going to be one to watch at this year.
And good news that he's back in.
It is, because he's got a lot of fans, and Glastonbury always gets a lot of flack for not getting the right headliners, and he will be loved on the Pyramid stage, so
definitely
it's good to see him back on the lineup.
Are you an EastEnders fan?
Yeah, I am.
There is. On February 19th, it's going to be 40 years of EastEnders. I cannot believe that. I'm starting to feel really old now. But they've got one of their classic characters coming back, Grant Mitchell, played by Ross Kemp, he announced this week that he will be coming back for the show's anniversary special. We know he is the original hard man of EastEnders, along with Phil, but he's saying that he's going to be coming back with a bang, and I think it is going to be really explosive for EastEnders. Not many people watch the soap anymore. When it first came out in 1985, it had about 13 million viewers. It's now dwindled to 4 million viewers a night who watch it, but I think for this 40th anniversary special is going to be quite epic. What I've seen so far, I think the Queen Vic is going to get exploded. It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up. I don't know how. I don't know how.
When is this 40th?
It's February 19th, so it's going to be like a week long of episodes, but it will be good to see Ross Kemp back. The last time he came on our screens was in 2016.
Do you remember how he exited the show?
I think he went to Portugal. He went to go live in Portugal. Don't know what he's been doing there.
Strange.
Yeah,
Wait,
for a hard man.
Maybe he got the advice from Lisa Minnow, the travel expert. Right, what's next?
Love that.
We've got about a minute left, so let's rattle through some of the top films.
2025 is going to be a big year for the cinema. It's going to be blockbuster. We've got Bridget Jones coming back. She's going to be a widowed single mum coming back. We've got Downton Abbey 3 coming back. Wicked, the sequel to everything. That obviously was a box office hit smash. So
quick turnaround to get a sequel out.
It did. Well, you know, they've already filmed it back to back, so I think they just wanted to leave a bit of gap. And we've got a new Superman that's going to be coming onto the screens as well. So it's going to be exciting. But I'm most excited about the Michael biopic about Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be a controversial one, I think.
But there have been a lot of, we've got 30 seconds, but there have been a lot of Netflix documentaries and things about him, about his life. But he is a legend, so I suppose we're always going to be interested about the behind-the-scenes life of him.
And he's been played by his nephew, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, his nephew.
OK.
Guys, thank you for having me on.
Steph, thank you.
I'll see you soon.
You're most looking forward to
Jurassic
World,
yeah. Humans and dinosaurs living together.
Welcome to GB News. I never said that. Steph, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Why don't you fire some of your comments in about all your top picks for this 2025 blockbuster movie year. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back straight after this break with all of the hottest fashion trends. I'm going to be paying attention. Don't go anywhere.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. From the Met Office, we have already issued amber warnings across many parts of the UK. Snow and ice, a real feature of the forecast through this weekend. There'll be some troublesome travelling conditions. An area of low pressure coming in from the southwest, bumping into cold air across the country. An icy start this morning. So a bright start across central northern parts for a few wintry showers around northern Scotland, seeing some sleet and snow. But it's as this band of rain pushes into the southwest, we could see some temporary snow over the moors, and then slowly through the day this pushes northwards, leading to an increasing risk of snow and ice. Temperatures for the afternoon really struggling despite any hazy sunshine, only a few degrees above freezing, so icy stretches still possible. But it is into this evening time as this band of rain starts to push northwards, bumps into the colder air. We see it turn to snow, even to lower levels across parts of Wales. Further north, it is a drier end to the evening, but it won't be long before the rain, sleet and snow pushes in. Temperatures falling below freezing across Scotland under the clearest skies. Sleet and snow still across Orkney and Shetland as well. Met Office warnings out through the day. Amber warnings coming in force for this evening as this band of rain, sleet and snow pushes northwards. 3 to 10 centimetres possible to lower levels, perhaps even locally 15 to 30. And then over the higher ground, 30 to 40 centimetres over northern parts of England. Turning back to rain the further south you are as milder air starts to move in, but temperatures falling below freezing, especially under the clear skies across Scotland, with some icy stretches developing, also icy stretches for Northern Ireland. So a hazardous start to a Sunday morning across the country. Outbreaks of rain, snow as well, leading to some tricky travelling conditions. It is worth checking before leaving the house. Drier in the south, windy, temperatures well above average here, 13-14 Celsius.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
But it turns out there's a growing number of grandparents who are now taking up the hobby.
And not all of them are male. 7 million gamers are aged over 50, 7 million of them. And we're going to introduce you to one this morning. Her name's Kath Bowie. She's 76 years of age, and Kath has become a worldwide star of the game Fortnite. Good to see you, Kath.
Hello, good morning to both of you.
And tell me this, Kath, is Bowie your real name?
Bowie. Yeah.
Bowie.
Yeah, it is my real name, yes.
And you do it a Bowie and not a Bowie?
It's a Bowie, yes, definitely Bowie, yes.
Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie.
But that's not what the Jim Bowie was called, or Jim Bowie was called in the Alamo. He was a Bowie.
No, but that's what I'm called, Kath Bowie.
Oh, right.
She's her own superstar.
You are your own superstar. You are indeed. Well, so we're led to believe, Kath, that there's nobody else like you, or very few people like you, but there is. There is lots of people your age, your stage, doing what you do.
Yes, there's not a lot that streams. Okay, Fortnite, but there's definitely plenty that plays. Any game, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Fortnite. It can be any game.
So Kath, how did you get started in all of this?
Oh, yeah, well, it's 7 years ago, actually. I walked into my teenage grandson's bedroom and just saw him playing what I now know, of course, and what I play is Fortnite. And that was the very first week that Epic had released it. And it was just really love at first sight.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good morning to you. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live, 11 o'clock. Sam and Tatiana with you for a whole another hour.
Great to have your company this morning. And we have an action-packed show, so don't go anywhere. Have you set any of your New Year's resolutions? Some swear by them, while others find them unhelpful. Psychologist Dr. Rich Shubira will be with us in the studio to talk about the best way to intentionally set your goals.
I think both of us will definitely be paying attention to that one. And sticking with the New Year's theme, it's also the perfect time to get organised at home. Expert Catherine Lord will be here to give her top tips and tricks, and also give some advice on how you can make things easier for yourself if you're taking down the Christmas decorations this weekend. It's a bit late, isn't it? Or is it?
No, never too late, eh? Well, also on the show today, star of ITV's Dress the Nation, Tendai Miraiwa, will join us to talk about her time on the show and the hottest fashion trends for the year ahead.
And we'll have all of the day's top stories with our wonderful panel this morning, journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser.
Welcome to Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News.
I think one of the main things that I'm going to need to pay attention to in the next hour is probably the fashion advice.
Really? No, you've got a good sense of fashion.
Well, I mean, we're doing well today.
And we're matching today,
Nicely matching, but
we've not done too badly.
No.
But
just don't
yes.
go back at the past looks from Saturday Morning Live.
OK, you heard it here. So don't forget, we want to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think about all of the topics today. We've been talking about favourite movies.
Yes.
New Year's resolutions.
Blockbusters.
Yes.
Great year for film.
It will be, yeah. Steph Tetchy was here to talk us through that. But also, email us your New Year's resolutions as well. I'd be interested to know what they are and how you stick to them.
Have you set any?
Yeah, I have, but I don't really like to say them out loud. I like to keep them to myself.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So if you fail, no one knows, and you can kind of keep it on.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll be trying to figure those out later.
Make sure to post your views and comments by emailing us on gbnews.com/yoursay.
But before we do anything else, let's head over to the newsroom for all of the latest headlines with Sophia Witt.
Sam, Tatiana, thank you. It's just gone 11 o'clock. These are your headlines. King Charles is deeply saddened by the death of a British man who was killed when an alleged Islamic State supporter drove a truck into crowds celebrating the New Year in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer is believed to be the stepson of Prince William and Prince Harry's nanny when they were young, known as Tiggy. The King has been in touch with Mr Pettifer's family to share his personal condolences. Meanwhile, the FBI believe the man who drove the truck is believed to have acted alone. Shamsuddin Jabbar's rented truck rammed into crowds in New Orleans, killing 14 and injuring dozens. This comes as the FBI says there is no definitive link between the attack and that of the cyber truck explosion in Las Vegas, after the driver was confirmed as active-duty American soldier Matthew Livelsberger. GB News can exclusively reveal that the first boatload of 50 illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. The Border Force vessel picked up 50 migrants from their small boat early this morning and is currently on its way back to Dover. It comes after nearly 37,000 people made the treacherous journey in small boats last year. Over 23,000 have crossed since Labour came into government last July. In other news now, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said the gloves are off and is about to ramp up his campaigning efforts in Kemi Badenoch's constituency of North West Essex. It follows claims from the Conservatives leader that Reform's online membership tracker was fake, despite several news outlets reporting they had seen the party's membership data and believe the tracker is accurate. Speaking ahead of his racecourse rally in Kemi Badenoch's constituency, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said the Tory leader had her chance.
I gave her an opportunity to apologise for what has now been thoroughly disproven in the media, and she's chosen not to take the opportunity. Although that's not surprising, she's not exactly known for her charm. So what to do? What to do? Well, it's all well and good saying sue her, but you have to prove actual harm. She hasn't harmed us. She's given us tens of thousands more members.
Meanwhile, the former Conservative MP for Dudley North, Marco Longhi, has defected to Reform after accusing the Conservative Party of becoming unrecognisable. It comes as a Reform UK leader has distanced himself from Elon Musk's support for Tommy Robinson. Nigel Farage has said Robinson is not what we need after Elon Musk praised the imprisoned right-wing activist. Mr Musk, the tech billionaire and supporter of Mr Farage, retweeted posts on X describing Robinson as a political prisoner and separately said Britain needs reform now. Sir Keir Starmer is as guilty as anyone over failure to tackle grooming gangs, according to the whistleblower Maggie Oliver, who helped expose the scandal. It comes as pressure mounts on the government to deliver a public inquiry into the gangs and that systematically groomed and raped young girls. Tech billionaire Elon Musk has called on the King to step in and dissolve Parliament after Labour rejected a call for a national inquiry. Mr Musk has been widely outspoken on the issue after claiming the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, deserves to be in prison. And the UK is braced for heavy snow and icy rain this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption. 2 amber and 2 yellow alerts have been issued by the Met Office across most of the country. Temperatures fell as low as -8.1 degrees early on Friday, and the bitter conditions created by an Arctic wind are expected to continue into next week. Forecasters say power cuts are likely and that vehicles could become stranded on roads as wintry conditions continue. Trains and flights could also be cancelled or delayed. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Tatiana and Sam.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back, Sophia. Thanks for those headlines. We'll stick with that story, actually, of heavy snow expected to hit parts of England and Wales throughout this weekend. The Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas.
The more severe warnings cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales, and are in place from this evening and throughout Sunday as well.
Temperatures have already fallen as low as minus 8.1 degrees. That was last night, and bitter conditions created by an Arctic wind are expected to continue into next week as well.
And there are warnings that rural communities could be cut off, with 30 centimetres of snow expected in some areas.
Disruption is already being felt this morning as race meetings at Sandown and Wincanton have been abandoned due to frozen tracks, would you believe? Well, we're joined now by GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie. Doogie, you've moved to a slightly more wintry landscape. How are you doing?
Well, good morning and welcome to Ballymena. I mean, the temperatures are actually, strange enough, dropping again. Usually at this time of the morning, the winter sun would come out and would melt a skiff of snow, wee drifts of snow that have came across the place. But you can see behind me here, this is actually at the back end of a housing estate, main road just in front of me, and you can see the kids have already started to use the pathway as a bit of a sleigh track, so it's good to see for the children. Not so good for motorists and not so good for anybody trying to use the pavements. Actually, we were setting up here this morning and it was quite the event not to slip and fall with the camera gear. But yeah, it really has started getting, the temperatures have started falling again, and that's because of this fog that I was talking about this morning. The sun hasn't been able to come through and really warm the ground. So I can understand why race meetings have been cancelled, because the ground is actually rock hard. Now that doesn't bode well for this evening. We have weather warnings in from 9 o'clock this evening, a bit further south than Ballymena. But if the ground is frozen there, well, of course the snow will fall and will lie. And if it brings wind along the back of it, it will then drift. So this evening we would be as well telling anyone, please make sure back taps are wrapped up. Make sure that elderly in your area, your neighbours, they have their groceries and stuff in. It's not that we're saying that this is a major event, end of the world, it's snow, but just if you can be prepared and make sure that those of you that are around you, that your neighbours, etc., that you care for them and make sure that they're okay, and really watch driving conditions. They are quite hazardous this morning, and that's mainly due to the freezing fog.
So, what precautions are people taking where you are? Are the snowplows out?
There's been quite a few gritters out last night and early this morning. No snowplows as such yet. I mean, usually we would see the likes of that in the Glen Shane Pass on the way through to Londonderry. That hasn't happened. But as I came past this morning, I did notice that the gritters had the ploughs on some of them as we came past the Department of Environment's depot there just outside Belfast. The gritters are. So they are obviously prepared for it. They have been gritting last night, but again, that grit only takes place on A roads. Be very careful on those roads coming from village to village. I mean, this morning I travelled from Ballyclare over the top of the mountain and straight down into Ballymena, and some of the driving antics that were going on was incredible. I was astonished by it. I've been involved in motorsport most of my life, and I reckon I can handle a car all right, but I was down to 40 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour in places, and there was people right behind me sitting with their lights on full beam, trying to get past you on those roads. Complete madness. There was no need for it, and really people need to just slow down and have a look at the conditions that they're driving to. So that would be my main worry this evening. Anybody out and around the town, especially a Saturday night, please be careful, because the roads, especially B roads, will take their toll.
So much, we won't keep you any longer. I know what you're like, and you're super keen to get sliding on a sledge down that hill behind you, so we'll leave you to it. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy.
Makes a good point, though, about taking care because yesterday there were reports of a 7-month-old baby that died
terrible.
after a car crash in Lincolnshire. And that was
icy roads can be seriously treacherous. It's not good.
No, it's not at all. But joining us now to talk through the top stories of the day, we are once again joined by our panel, broadcaster Candice Holdsworth and former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. Right, first topic on our paper is an AI story.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, excuse me, we were talking earlier about the issue of Siri listening to you. Well, it's not just your own conversations being sort of harvested for data, but it's a problem with AI. So what seems to have happened yesterday is that Apple issued a alert saying that Luke Littler had won the darts before he had. I mean, imagine what would, if he then gone on to lose, how that would have looked. I mean, obviously, because he went on to win, at least they got the story right, but before it had happened. So what it seems to happen is that the AI farms existing stories, and what it has done, that's the alert. We can see the alert there now, and it also claiming that Brazilian tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay when actually a different Brazilian tennis player. It was actually mentioned in the original story. So what it does is and this is the problem is because you see that it's branded as BBC Sport. What the Apple AI system does is it farms alerts that it thinks people are getting from the source, and then summarises them into one. That's going to be my question. Into one alert.
Looks to me like you would assume, OK, the BBC are reporting this.
Absolutely.
So the BBC News might be saying something else.
So it could happen to any news organisation because it literally farms the original stories. And it actually turns out that what happened there is it was based on a BBC story about Littler winning the semi-final and about a different Brazilian tennis player, João da Silva, I always wanted to say that.
Very good.
Who's come out. So basically, the BBC is up in arms, and it says it keeps complaining to Apple about this, and nothing is happening. So I think this is going to be a growing problem.
Not surprisingly. I mean...
Absolutely, but can we trust AI, Candice?
Well, look, this has highlighted a massive issue. I mean, having editorial judgment and quality control, because if this is going on, it's just contributing to the flow of misinformation. Yes. And we know that this is a problem on social media, people reporting false things. But if it seems to come from trusted news sources, that is a massive issue in credibility. I mean, if you had something like Reuters, who's a big news provider, doing this, you could hold people accountable, you could make changes, but when it's the AI doing it, I mean, what do? You're going to have to reprogram it in some way.
And if you just lost control, if you're a news source, you've lost control of what goes out because it basically farms it, puts your logo on it, and sends it out, even when it's nonsense.
And back in the day, there would have been checks and balances, a sub-editor or somebody overseeing the output. Now AI can just sort of...
It's scary, isn't it?
Release it to the world without anything.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously with so far this seems to be a sports issue, but I mean, look, if you got claiming somebody had been shot or something, you could cause riots.
We also had on the screen there a BBC News AI alert, and it was a story about South Korea. I don't know if we can pull that up very quickly, but if not, it appears that it's not just sports AI alerts, it's also news as well, which can be extremely detrimental.
Absolutely, because we see what happens when false information spreads, and it can have very serious consequences. Yeah. So I think that and I think you're so right about it. When it was the news sources themselves, people took responsibility, but now it's the tech companies. They just go, "We're a tech company," when they don't. And I think, as we saw with the Siri case, it's about time that the tech companies did take responsibility.
But it represents such an issue because they have been very squeamish about getting into moderation.
Yes.
They don't want to do that. And of course, they've also received pushback from people saying, there's free speech issues. I mean, I think the tech companies have really struggled to take a position on this that people can support across the board.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. They've struggled with moderation. It's obviously a technical issue. I mean, they're dealing with so much information flowing through their systems, but it's also what are they moderating? What editorial judgment are they using?
And what are the consequences of their lack of moderation as well?
Yeah.
Interesting story here in the paper as well. £369 million. If you had that to hand, would you spend it on renovating Buckingham Palace? It looks like most Brits wouldn't.
I find this very interesting. So, this is a story on The Times. They commissioned a YouGov poll about this issue, and they found that the majority of people are opposed to that amount of money being spent on renovating.
It's a huge amount of money.
It's an enormous amount of money, and I think it's connected to what we were talking about in our earlier segment. I mean, these are difficult times for people. People are really, really, really struggling, and I think the tolerance for stuff like this is just low. In times of scarcity, people are a lot less sensitive. I do know that things like Buckingham Palace, they're enormous tourist attractions. They do bring in huge amounts of money. I mean, they just do. It's one of the most visited places in the world. I know that that's what they're looking at doing now, the royal family. They're opening up places like Balmoral, for instance. You know, there's a huge interest from American tourists to look at all these royal palaces. So if they can monetize it in that way, that is good. But the less they can draw on the public purse, I think, plays better with public relations.
Matthew, Labour MP Norman Baker says that, first of all, the renovation should be smaller in scale. He says it's far too opulent.
Well, I think one of the problems with Buckingham Palace is the King doesn't like it very much. He spends as little time there as possible, basically doesn't live there. So it's kind of slightly underused at the moment. I mean, I can see how people's reaction to this. We've got another issue just down the road from Buckingham Palace, which is the Houses of Parliament, which are literally falling to bits. I mean, so the renovation there, and nobody can make up their mind what to do. Obviously, if you do a poll, nobody wants to spend. It's going to cost sort of, you know, several billion potentially to do the rebuild there. Nobody wants to spend it. The problem is it's not to make them fancier. It's because the wiring was done in 1932 and to make them inhabitable. Absolutely. When I worked in Parliament, it's the worst workplace I've ever had. You've got rats running around. The toilets are beyond description, and literally now there are sort of barriers because bits of the masonry keep falling off. And of course, the longer you wait, the more it costs. So I think I can see why the public don't like it, but sometimes you have to bite the bullet and get the job done.
Bite the bullet, get it done, unfortunately.
Because you can imagine if a fire happened in either of those buildings, you know, our national symbols, the sort of the consequences would be
and after that,
awful.
it would cost far more to rebuild or replace it. So.
Or perhaps, as Candy said, it should be funded through visitor ticket sales and other...
Certainly, absolutely. There needs to be a proper
You're going to need a serious number of visitors to get 360.
Maybe we'll be able to see more rooms. But, so, you know...
Well, there's that.
Airbnb it.
That's a good... My nan used to say, should I turn it into council houses? She was a Red Republican.
Oh, I used to hear that a lot.
Well, let's quickly turn to, I suppose this is something very good for New Year. 22 minutes of exercise a day, that's all you need to protect against 19 diseases, apparently.
So I had the exact same thought when I read this. This is so relevant for the New Year, this story in the Telegraph. Most people will not know this, but you don't need to do a huge amount of exercise per day to protect against all the diseases that you get with lack of movement, you know, cardiovascular health, neurological issues.
Yeah, we're not just talking about flu or cold here.
No.
Genuine chronic diseases and conditions.
These are proper things, absolutely. And they can be averted if you just get yourself moving.
22 minutes.
And it has to be cardio as well, so you have to get your heart rate up. So, you know, brisk walking.
Brisk walk.
Running, something like that. I mean, all these things you can do, and it's achievable, because I think at the beginning of the year, people sort of set goals for themselves that they're not able to keep up. And if you can just commit to doing 22 minutes of exercise per day, that will add up. And it's sustainable.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Because, of course, as you're going to hear, we're going to be discussing shortly about the New Year's resolutions. It's sustainability. But if people get into the habit of a kind of brisk 20-minute walk, that seems doable in a way that sometimes we're told we need to do X, Y, and Z, and they're totally unrealistic.
No.
You know, but you know, this sounds like it might be one that we can all adopt.
I think for me, I tend to set targets like an hour on the Stairmaster, and I probably do that once, if that, and then you just give up, don't you? Well, thank you very much, Candice and Matthew. How about starting your new year with an incredible £50,000 in cash from us? Well, it could be all yours with our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here's all the details that you need for a chance to make £50,000 yours.
Imagine how
Wow, up next we'll be speaking to psychologist Dr. Ritz, who's going to tell us about how we can how we can intentionally set You do the rest.
Set goals that we can stick to for the new year. This is Saturday Morning Live. Tatiana's going to put her teeth back in. We'll see you very shortly.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Apparently, in the Mail, page 5, hard-pressed bosses already having to deal with deadlines, red tape and staff who won't actually come into the office over Christmas. And they're saying that Christmas parties this year are going to be as lame as ever because everyone's afraid of basically getting cancelled or misbehaving or getting sacked for their behaviour. Would you risk it, Trey, at Christmas?
Do you know, I've actually never had a normal job in my life, so I wouldn't last a second because I'm not very politically correct. But it must be horrendous, really, because rather than enjoying yourself, you're having to completely always censor yourself. And it might be the most innocent of stuff that's said to someone that they then take offence to, which means you're going to probably just keep your mouth shut, which doesn't sound like the best of parties, does it, really?
No. Tricky one, isn't it? Because you're not at work, so it's not an office issue if, you know, some banter and it's taken the wrong way. But still, it's still a work environment, isn't it?
Yeah. If HR shows up, it's a work party. It's a work event.
HR shows up, I'm gone.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. And so even for us this year, first of all, it's the first year we're calling it a holiday party. I don't know how I felt about that.
Really? What, your company's doing that?
Yeah, they're calling it a holiday party.
Oh, no, well, no.
Yeah, I know. I voted against.
So they got rid of the word Christmas. Why?
Because we want to be inclusive.
How's it not inclusive to call it Christmas?
I know. Trust me.
Are you still going to go? I wouldn't bother going. I'd say no.
I am going to go, but I'm going to go dressed as Mrs. Claus, and it's going to be Christmassy, and I'm going to make sure that Christmas enters the door with me.
Yeah, you spread that Christian vibe.
100%. But outside of that, there is that element of HR showing up, and HR will be sober, and they've already prepped them to say, like, listen, this isn't your party. HR can have their party. This is your hangout.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's being PC.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and don't forget to keep sending me and Sam questions about the topics in the news this week, and we'll chat them through with our panel. And you've also been emailing us.
Yes, there's a great one in from Stephen. We're talking about summer holidays, well, getting winter sun, I suppose. Stephen, you're saying you've just paid, I can't quite believe this, £24 for a return ticket to Cyprus in February. Bargain.
22 degrees out there, yeah, that's
Absolute
amazing.
Bargain.
And also on the subject of new movies, Steve says, did Sam get to watch The Die Hard over the Christmas period? Because he said he would.
If you were watching with us last weekend, same time on Saturday Morning Live, I had said, to my shame, that I hadn't watched the Die Hard movie. Is there
any of them?
Okay,
Yes,
so
there's multiple.
Multiple movies.
Yeah.
Steve, no. I still haven't watched the Die Hard movie, and I'm not going to promise that I will this afternoon because I'm going to be presenting the news. So I won't get a chance.
Slightly disappointing. Anyway, shall we swiftly move on?
Yes. So we always hear about people who are setting New Year's resolutions only to go and, well, I suppose break them just a week later.
Oh, so how can we set meaningful goals that will help us break bad habits and change our routines for the better? And most of all, how can we stick to them?
Well, Dr. Ritz Barar joins us now to talk through, hopefully, some top tips on how we can stick to them and not fail miserably at this time of year. So, well, Happy New Year. First
Happy
of all,
New Year.
Great to have you in.
Thank you for
First time
having
with
me.
us. It's really lovely to see you.
Really lovely to be here.
We were just talking in the break there about one of your main emphasis at this time of year for people to get their act in order. And you were talking about journaling.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like journaling can be a fantastic way to get your thoughts, get your intentions, get your goals down onto paper, your phone, whatever platform you might be using, to really clear out that mental clutter that's maybe happened in 2024. Let's get some clarity here. When we set goals, and I think this is the problem sometimes with New Year's resolutions, they're often very broad, very ambiguous, they lack clarity, and our brain, it loves structure, it loves pattern. So journaling can be a fantastic way to become really clear what is it that you want to get from yourself.
But what then is really the difference between writing down New Year's resolutions and setting goals? Then how can you kind of differentiate between the two? And also, how can you make it easier to stick to them whilst journaling and kind of keep that longevity in the journaling? You were talking to us about a WhatsApp group that you started.
Absolutely. So I have an online journal subscription service called Reflect with Dr. Ritz. And the reason that came about is I've always recommended journaling to my clients, to my patients, as a way to consolidate their therapy sessions or if they've attended a workshop with me. And what tends to happen is, like by month 2, you know, if they've been really good at it, or even, you know, after a few weeks, that journal, it falls to the back of the bedside drawer, or it comes out again in January with the resolution. So I thought, what are people already doing? What's a habit people are already doing, and how do we implement something on top of that? So that's called habit stacking. And so I came up with a WhatsApp journal that is all delivered via WhatsApp. It's all confidential, it's unmonitored. And what happens is it follows a repetitive basis, and that's the neuroscience behind it. Because when we repeat things at the same time every day, that's how we form the neural connection. So in the morning, you'll get something like a positive affirmation that really helps you to set your intention for the day. What type of day do you want to have? Because we can often feel so rushed in the morning, can't we?
Absolutely. I mean, we're rushing here, rushing there, and it's just, it seems like life is non-stop. Is that one of the reasons why resolutions tend to fail? Because we, as you say, set the intention, life fills up, and your resolutions fall to the wayside.
Absolutely. We live life on autopilot. So the resolution that you have in mind, the habit that you want to set, it's not become habitual. So that's when it becomes automatic. And the way to do that is to implement those pathways in your brain by repeating it on a daily basis. But the other really important part of it is to have a reward. Have something that gives you that dopamine release, and it's going to make you feel good. So for me, I wanted to set a habit of waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning to just get my power hour in before the house woke up. And the reward for that, it wasn't going to be getting out of bed into a cold environment. It was my hot cup of tea that I was going to make in the morning. That's what helped me to build that momentum, get those small steps in, so that over a longer period of time, that was just natural to me.
It's similar, I think they say as well, you might be able to correct me on this, but if you're wanting to start, let's say, running in the morning, then put your running clothes out and your running shoes out the night before, put them by the door so that you can see it, that sort of visual, practical impulse to encourage you to follow through on that habit.
And also we were talking about when you're in bed late at night, often you said in just before we came to you that those are when your intrusive and negative thoughts come out. Some people, go to prayer, for example, or something else. You may go to the Bible, you may go to any other, sort of religious book, but you were talking about gratitude and how important that is. How do you implement your WhatsApp journal and gratitude?
So in terms of implementing all that into your day, you're right, we go about our day, we fall into bed, those negative thoughts creep in. I should have done this, I didn't do that, I wish I hadn't said this, why did I act like that? And actually, we're priming our brains into a real negative state before we go to bed. How are we going to wake up feeling in the morning? Actually, quite heavy, not energised. So one of the questions that you get at the end of your day is, what are 3 things you're grateful for? What's gone well today? What are you proud of? Again, it's going to give your brain that dopamine release. It's going to help you relive those memories of the day that they're so easy to forget. And I always say go small, because it's very easy to remember big things. But if you go smaller, actually, that's going to help your brain much more. Then I ask people, what's your 1% improvement for tomorrow? So let's say you had a resolution of, I want to eat less chocolate, and you ended up having that treat. Right, let's not be hard on yourself. Actually, tomorrow, when you fancy that treat, rather than having the chocolate, maybe you have a protein bar laced with chocolate. Maybe you have a date, so it still gives you that sugar fix.
And something like a 1% is achievable.
It's doable, isn't
daunting,
it?
It doesn't scare you, and it doesn't make you feel like a failure, because everybody can move forward by 1%
Absolutely.
the next day. Which
marginal gains are so important.
Dr. Ritz, thank you so much. We're both inspired.
Thank you so
We're both
much.
Inspired. Looking forward to it. I need to get my journal back out.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you both join.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Well, there's lots more still to come on the show, but first, the headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Tatiana, Sam, thank you. Your headlines at 11:32. King Charles is deeply saddened by the death of a British man who was killed when an alleged Islamic State supporter drove a truck into crowds celebrating the New Year in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer is believed to be the stepson of Prince William and Prince Harry's nanny when they were young, known as Tiggy. The King has been in touch with Mr. Pettifer's family to share his personal condolences. Meanwhile, the FBI believe the man who drove the truck is believed to have acted alone. Shamsuddin Jabbar's rented truck rammed into crowds in New Orleans, killing 14 and injuring dozens. This comes as the FBI says there is no definitive link between the attack and the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas, after the driver was confirmed as active-duty American soldier Matthew Livelsberger. In other news, GBNews can exclusively reveal that the first boatload of 50 illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. The Border Force vessel picked up 50 migrants from their small boat early this morning and drove them back to Dover. It comes after nearly 37,000 people have made the treacherous journey in small boats last year. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has distanced himself from Elon Musk's support for Tommy Robinson. Mr. Farage has said Robinson is not what we need after Elon Musk praised the imprisoned right-wing activist. Mr. Musk, the tech billionaire and supporter of Mr. Farage, retweeted posts on X describing Robinson as a political prisoner and separately said Britain needs reform now. The UK is braced for heavy snow and icy rain this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas. 2 amber and 2 yellow alerts have been issued by the Met Office across most of the country, with up to 30 centimetres of snow expected. Forecasters say power cuts are likely and that vehicles could become stranded on roads as wintry conditions continue. Trains and flights could also be delayed or cancelled. And Luke Littler has made darting history with a 7-3 victory over Michael van Gerwen to become the youngest ever PDC World Championship winner. The 17-year-old raced to 4-0 lead over Michael van Gerwen, and despite van Gerwen getting 3 sets on the board, he never really threatened a comeback. It was success at the second opportunity for Littler, who lost last year's final aged 16. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. From the Met Office, we have already issued amber warnings across many parts of the UK. Snow and ice, a real feature of the forecast through this weekend. There'll be some troublesome travelling conditions. An area of low pressure coming in from the southwest, bumping into cold air across the country. An icy start this morning. So a bright start across central northern parts for a few wintry showers around northern Scotland, seeing some sleet and snow. But it's as this band of rain pushes into the southwest, we could see some temporary snow over the moors, and then slowly through the day this pushes northwards, leading to an increasing risk of snow and ice. Temperatures for the afternoon really struggling despite any hazy sunshine, only a few degrees above freezing, so icy stretches still possible. But it is into this evening time as this band of rain starts to push northwards, bumps into the colder air. We see it turn to snow, even to lower levels across parts of Wales. Further north, it is a drier end to the evening, but it won't be long before the rain, sleet and snow pushes in. Temperatures falling below freezing across Scotland under the clearest skies. Sleet and snow still across Orkney and Shetland as well. Met Office warnings out through the day. Amber warnings coming in force for this evening as this band of rain, sleet and snow pushes northwards. 3 to 10 centimetres possible to lower levels, perhaps even locally 15 to 30. And then over the higher ground, 30 to 40 centimetres over northern parts of England. Turning back to rain the further south you are as milder air starts to move in, but temperatures falling below freezing, especially under the clear skies across Scotland, with some icy stretches developing, also icy stretches for Northern Ireland. So a hazardous start to a Sunday morning across the country. Outbreaks of rain, snow as well, leading to some tricky travelling conditions. It is worth checking before leaving the house. Drier in the south, windy, temperatures well above average here, 13-14 Celsius.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning at 11:38. Sam and Tatiana with you. It's Saturday Morning Live and, well, something sadly close to my heart, I'm ashamed to say. The chaos of Christmas leaves our homes feeling pretty cluttered and disorganised at this time of year.
Well, our next guest has some expert tips for how to carefully tidy away the decks to restore harmony at home and how to keep organised all year round.
Oh, something I certainly need. Expert Catherine Lord is here with us this morning. Hello, Happy New
Hi,
Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, you've cluttered up our studio slightly, Catherine. Tell us, when we hit January, post-Christmas, post-New Year, the place is a mess. Where do we start? Because for a lot of us, it's overwhelming. We don't really know how to tackle the mess.
Well, people usually start with the Christmas tree, but then that's where they stop. So they take down the Christmas tree and do it in a really bad way because nobody likes doing it, let's face it. They put it in the big box, it's all a mess, and then next year it's really, really hard.
The lights are in a mess, the tinsel's gone everywhere.
So that's my major hack, is to use your crackers to wrap around your beads and your tinsel, and then it doesn't get tangled for next year.
So
I even do this with lights.
That are
just normal crackers.
Unused, because you usually have leftovers at the end of Christmas.
So you should... Do you?
Well, I usually
We usually pull all of them open, but...
Oh, no, it's one
If you've got
person.
a spare cracker, this is a very good idea, actually.
So I actually use these as decorations within the tree to add depth to the tree as well, so you wouldn't necessarily have to pull them at all. And if you get durable ones, then you can reuse them to tidy away your things for the rest.
So it keeps the tinsel, the beads, everything.
Yeah, you've got beads over there as well.
Yeah, we've got beads and everything.
A very good idea. And what's this? You've got the baubles in a...
So I have lots of
container.
clients who expect lots of different things from me. So you can get amazing things that already have the sections for you to keep your baubles very safe, keep them all in there in the right place. But some of my clients don't want to spend money, and that's absolutely fine. So we also have other options where, for my clients, we get things that we can reuse, such as the shoe boxes, and then if you wrap them, you can actually put them under your tree so that you keep them there. So
Look
then
like
when you
presents. Great idea.
it looks like a present, and then you pop all your decorations back in there at the end, and you haven't lost them, and you've not forgotten where you've scribbled it
and
away.
using all that we can see there, using all the old chocolate pots as well that are left over.
And tins.
Yeah.
Some of my clients really love the recycling of all the things that you have at Christmas.
You know what? One of the worst, like you said, one of the worst parts of taking down the tree is that it's so massive, and where do you have to slog it up to the loft, and it's all a bit... Have you got any tips on how to safely take down a tree?
So if it's a real life tree, I wrap it in a fitted sheet at clients' houses, so then I don't get needles all over their floor, because obviously if I'm taking out the tree of a client's house, I don't want to make it even more of a mess than I've started. For a fake tree, I would always say start wherever you have put the things on. So I do it in a very specific order, putting it on, and then I do it in the opposite order to take it off, just to make it seamless.
Makes complete sense.
And also, as I said, taking down the Christmas decorations, it doesn't stop at the tree. You've got to go in your kitchen, because you'll have your leftover cheeses, maybe from Christmas presents. But one of my clients said, I will not find anything in her kitchen that has passed its sell-by date. And I found a Christmas baking set, and I love finding things that have gone off. Also, all the things that are in your house that are Christmas related, you do not need them in your space the whole of the year. So even earrings are one of those, Christmas toys, stampers, stationery, all of those things. DVDs, some people have DVDs in their homes and they don't even have a DVD player. Perhaps you don't need that at all.
Are there similar processes, tips? I'm just reading here as well, a labelling system. That's certainly something that I'd be interested in for different times of the year. Easter, Halloween, there's also loads of sort of festive stuff.
Absolutely. So in my book, More to Organising, I do help clients talk about how to seasonally organise. We do it with clothes as well. I actually had one client who had 50 Christmas jumpers, and she doesn't need them in her space all year. Wow. Arguably don't need 50 either.
I've not even done 50 Christmases.
Some clients we just have autumn, winter, spring and summer. Some we have Chinese New Year, especially because I work with children a lot. So a lot of the families have things for different times of year. Halloween is the best one to declutter. And with that, we use the boxes in order, and then I move the box to the bottom. So then the next one, so if you put away Christmas in the next celebration, let's say maybe it's Valentine's Day, maybe it's Pancake Day, that would be the next one. And then you just swap them out.
So why did you get into this business? Is it because you love mess and you love to be around it, or you absolutely hate it to the point where you just have to go and help people?
Funnily enough, I was a messy person and I sought help, but then I applied it. I've been a nanny for 10 years and I applied it to my nanny family homes. And it was actually in lockdown. They had a Lego Disney castle, but they'd lost all their pieces. So I colour coordinated every single piece in their house. We found the instructions and we built this castle, but I didn't stop there. I carried on organising all of their rooms, their laundry rooms, their bedrooms, their toys, and I found how the children started thriving, but also how the parents' life and my life got easier. And then I joked with my nanny family that I would give up nannying and become a professional organiser, and a year later I did just do that.
It's so true how clutter can affect your state of mind. It certainly does for me, and I know you're pretty similar as well. Although you were saying earlier, organised chaos is how you describe it.
Yeah, exactly. I would say
I think that's just to get out of free.
I like to say I'm clean, but I can be a bit messy.
I think what's most important and what I believe in is it's not about perfection. It's about how to make your life easier, to run your life more smoothly. So it's not about having stuff there that stays still, because then you're not using it, so you don't need it in your home. It's actually about where can I put this thing so that I can use it faster, or where can I put this thing because I only use it once a year.
Makes complete sense. I'm ashamed to say, I think I've admitted before, my Christmas tree didn't come down till August last year, so I certainly need to take some top tips. Thank you, Catherine, very much. Great New Year. And if you are in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking across southern parts of Europe for some winter sun on Sunday, and whilst in the west it's going to be quite wet but also relatively warm. A different story further east. Temperatures here around or a touch below average for the time of year, and a mixture of sunny breaks with a few outbreaks of rain. The wettest weather will be pushing across parts of Portugal and into western Spain, but here, like I said, temperatures above average for the time of year. Madeira, for example, getting into the low 20s Celsius. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Up next, we'll get the latest fashion trends ahead with upcycling fashion trends. Thank you very much, Sam. This is Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses while staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things, but it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now we're into a new year, and fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. Am I pronouncing that properly?
That's right, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Speaking of sewing consultant and upcycling extraordinaire, you were just telling us the outfit you were wearing, I can't quite believe this and get my head around this, made last night.
I did.
Yeah.
I think because sewing is not that hard. People overthink it.
I can't do a simple stitch, but yeah. I think that's
fantastic.
There it is. It's absolutely stunning. And you've done this, you've made this yourself, you've upcycled it. Firstly, I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible.
How did they find you then?
On Instagram, the casting researchers were just looking for people, and I applied, and yeah, they are.
For you, what does an upcycling consultant do? What does it involve? It sounds a bit cryptic.
I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves.
Oh, so
I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant.
Then we can just put some bands on, some belts. And,
nice lapels, yeah.
Why is upcycling so important?
I think sustainability has to be on top of everything nowadays. I think a lot of people are shying away from fast fashion and just looking for pieces that will that can last them for a very long time. And so upcycling is definitely the way forward.
Should people be daunted by it, though? Because if I think of upcycling a particular piece of clothing, there's no way I'd do it as quickly as you overnight. So for me, I'm thinking cost versus... And as stunning as that. Cost versus time, I'm thinking, it'd be quicker for me to just go down the shop.
Yeah, well, I think with everything, if you don't know how, you always think it's hard. But once you learn how to do it, it just starts coming natural. So just why I think everybody needs to learn to sew because you can do wonders.
It's a life skill, I suppose.
So that's kind of the first tip. What other tips would you give to other people that perhaps are watching this now and thinking that's a gorgeous dress, you made that overnight and it's upcycled? What other tips, aside from a simple stitch, would you give to others that want to perhaps upcycle themselves?
I start small, and sometimes, upcycling doesn't have to involve a sewing machine. Okay. Just using some pins, getting some fabrics and playing with textures. So whatever you have, you'll be amazed how creative you can be by just playing up with any kind of clothing that you have that you want to dispose.
2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself, It's about feeling comfortable in whatever you wear and, so it doesn't matter what it is.
I'm just noticing as well, you've done this very smart move of using the same material, I think, on the necklace as the...
Yeah, so this is a button.
Great
so I've used
little things like that, pops of colour.
That's right.
Can really help.
Absolutely, yeah. So just make a button out of any fabric that we have and make a necklace and,
accessorise, there we go, that's where we went.
That's the word.
One for me next.
Yeah, thank you. I can see that with a colourful button just there. I think that'd be wonderful.
Tendai, thank you so much for joining us on Saturday Morning Live.
And thank you to all of you as well for joining us here on the programme this morning. Don't go anywhere because Dawn Neeson is up next and I will be with you throughout the rest of this afternoon with all your news headlines. Have a great week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. From the Met Office, we have already issued amber warnings across many parts of the UK. Snow and ice, a real feature of the forecast through this weekend. There'll be some troublesome travelling conditions. An area of low pressure coming in from the southwest, bumping into cold air across the country. An icy start this morning. So a bright start across central northern parts for a few wintry showers around northern Scotland, seeing some sleet and snow. But it's as this band of rain pushes into the southwest, we could see some temporary snow over the moors, and then slowly through the day this pushes northwards, leading to an increasing risk of snow and ice. Temperatures for the afternoon really struggling despite any hazy sunshine, only a few degrees above freezing, so icy stretches still possible. But it is into this evening time as this band of rain starts to push northwards, bumps into the colder air. We see it turn to snow, even to lower levels across parts of Wales. Further north, it is a drier end to the evening, but it won't be long before the rain, sleet and snow pushes in. Temperatures falling below freezing across Scotland under the clearest skies. Sleet and snow still across Orkney and Shetland as well. Met Office warnings out through the day. Amber warnings coming in force for this evening as this band of rain, sleet and snow pushes northwards. 3 to 10 centimetres possible to lower levels, perhaps even locally 15 to 30. And then over the higher ground, 30 to 40 centimetres over northern parts of England. Turning back to rain the further south you are as milder air starts to move in, but temperatures